Hi sewing friends. So, hello, how are you? I hope you're doing well. I am wanting to tell you guys about Ford this week. So, for those of you guys who don't follow me over on Instagram, I have the account Ford_wardrobe. And I just want to tell you guys all about it because I love my Instagram. I really think Instagram has really come into its own as a social media platform over the last couple of years. So, because it started out as photos and then it got reels, and now I teach sewing tutorials on there. So I just want to tell you all about my account because I love it, and I love that other people love it as well. And I want to tell you guys about what goes on behind the scenes and kind of how I run it and how I aim to do it essentially as a content creator, sewing influencer. Can I please be the first social influencer? I would really like that. You heard it here first. So I graduated with my degree in fashion design back in 2019, end of 2019? No, end of 2018. And then the start of 2019, I was sharing my sewing stuff on my personal Instagram, but then I was the people that I went to high school with or the people I went to uni, they don't really care about my sewing. And also I want my sewing to be for people that love and appreciate it. And so I started up Ford_wardrobe because, and I'll tell you about where the name Ford came from. So my surname is Stafford, Stafford. And when I was in university, we had to do a lecture unit type of piece of work. And it was all about designing labels for our clothing, our collection. So I was I don't want to overthink this. I just need something to put down on paper. I can change it later. And I just thought up Ford because I was just okay, that's good. That's it's mine, and it's also part of my identity. It's my surname, but it's not my surname, so there's a bit of anonymity with it as well. So, and also Ford wardrobe, it just all fit for the time. And so I just put that down on paper, and I was that's done, that's ticked a box. And then for this competition we had to make name tag labels. Do I have one nearby? No, I don't. I'll do another YouTube video on that. I really want to. Oh my gosh, I still have my third year and my fourth year design portfolio. So what I want to do with you guys is do a going through my portfolio with you guys. So we'll talk about that later. Actually, I think I know where one of the labels is. Hang tight. Give me 1 second. Found it. So, Ford. It was Ford. So this is actually one of the pieces from my graduate collection. It's a robe, and then I got the silk dyed. But you can see here, that's my label, right? So those went in all my pieces of clothing. And so then it was on a tag, and I was okay, I want to start a Instagram account to keep me accountable for, keep on sewing, keep on uploading and being in the community, and so that I would sew every day and that it wouldn't become a skill that I love and I work so hard to gain that I wouldn't lose it. So I remember my first ever post was and the first caption and my bio was keeping me accountable to learn to sew every day, follow along and laugh at my expense. Because I would upload just little snapshots of things that I was working on and little tips and tricks. And so for the first year of my Instagram career, I had 300 followers. And I remember so clearly like some of the first ever followers I have, and I still check in with them occasionally now. Like those are my day ones, those are my ride or die followers. Like I absolutely love them. And so then for my first year, I was uploading like little snapshots and everything, like probably like once a week, if I'm honest, which is so funny. And it was only ever photos. And I remember editing the photos on the app, like something that's like, so like, if you just think about it, in 4 or 5 years, how far Instagram has come, it's amazing, right? About like just the stuff we upload, let alone like the content of it. So that was my first year. And then my second year, I kept on uploading little bits and bobs and things that I sewed. And then when Reels started to come in is really where it kicked off. So the first year I had 300 followers. End of my second year, I had 1,000. And then Reels came in and I started doing like funny Reels. And this was also when I moved out of my parents' house and I moved into my own studio. And I could create content and I was uploading like how-to videos. And that is when I was like, wow, people really love these tutorials. And I remember my first ever time I like gained like 50 followers in a day, and it was amazing. Like it was such a buzz because, that's, a huge amount of followers to gain in a day if your account's at 1,000. And then I kept on uploading like these tutorials and these funny like trending audios and sounds with me in them. And then at the end of my third year, I grew it from 1,000 to 20,000. So 20,000 was a huge number, and it still is a huge number. But I remember back then I tried to upload like 3-4 times a week. And, I was still trying to find my way, trying to find out like what kind of stuff I liked to produce versus what other people like seeing from me. And also if you scroll back through my highlights, you'll actually see some of my first ever highlights, because I don't take my highlights down, because you can really see like the timeline that everything for Forward Wardrobe happened. So that was the end of my third year. And then I moved to Melbourne, where I am now. And I remember it was early September. So I was at 20,000 at this point. Moving to Melbourne, obviously I couldn't upload very much because I didn't have a studio, I didn't have a sewing machine, I didn't really have anything. So I love the fact that like one day I can look back on this, because I remember moving to Melbourne and I was so scared. Like it was genuinely one of the hardest things I ever had to do, because I came over here with 2 suitcases. That was it. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm gonna have to set up a whole new life here. I've got to find a job, I've got to find an apartment, I've got to find friends, I've got to find everything again. And then with the added pressure of like, I'm losing followers, like I'm not doing what makes me happy. I can't get this all, like it's gonna take so much energy to get it revved up and going again. And it was really hard. It really was like moving houses is difficult. Moving countries, my guy. But thankfully I was with my sister during that time. So I lived with her. And I remember when I got my sewing machine and I was just playing around, and I love it. And I've still got it. I'll tell you what, I am such a big advocate for, like, it doesn't matter about getting the right machine, just get a sewing machine and get started. I love Facebook Marketplace. I tend to get like a lot of my things secondhand, and that's what I will always preach for. Go secondhand first. And then if you like, I just need a sewing machine, secondhand, go for it. My sewing machine is secondhand from Facebook Marketplace, and the original owner got it from Aldi, which is something so sweet, like Aldi, like of course. Same as with my overlocker is secondhand as well. Like always go secondhand if you can. So then I moved into my beautiful apartment here, and I'm not gonna lie, like the first 6 to 9 months were a bit of a slog because like things weren't, it takes a while to get things set up. And I'm gonna be honest, nearly 2 years in this apartment, my sewing studio isn't really completely how I like it. But I would love to do a studio tour with you guys and show you like how I set up my sewing studio and kind of what migrated with me from my previous sewing studio to this one. So when I moved into this apartment, I remember I was standing at my kitchen island and I checked my Instagram and I was 20,003 followers. And I was like, my ego will not let me drop below 20,000. Like it is an ego thing. Like any other person that tells you otherwise, like, oh, I don't care if I lose followers. Yeah, you might not care, but it's a very visual metric that somebody else can compare your previous work and your current work to. Like if you're losing followers, it's like, oh, you're losing followers for a reason. You're not putting out the work, or, you know, that's how I interpreted it. And so I was at 20,003. And so that was in September. And at that point I was like, okay, I need to get something going. I need to work on what I'm clearly not doing. I need to get back to how I was when I was back in New Zealand and I was in my sewing studio and I was doing all this stuff. So from September to November, I was kind of trying out a whole bunch of different things and whatnot, because I still hadn't found my footing on what I was offering my sewing community, my beautiful sewing community of over 20,000 people that chose to follow me. And, you know, trying to find new friends in the city, and, you know, I'm still mid-20s, like I still want to do other things. So, but Forward is something so special to me that I love working on Forward. So I also wanted to work out what I wanted in the future for Forward, and work towards those kinds of goals instead of just being any port in a storm. So, and then November hit and I was like, okay, like we've got to put things into place. And so what I started to do was just experiment with a whole bunch of different things and trying new techniques and different things and different angles, different types of videos, until I kind of found what I was looking for early 2023. And so my 3 pillars of my Instagram is community, which is all of you guys, which is being a part of the sewing community, being a contributor to the sewing community, as well as being in the circle. Like, I don't gatekeep things. Like, I always try and share the genuine authenticity with my Instagram audience and now my YouTube audience. And the reason I started a YouTube is because I want you guys to know me better, because it's very difficult to convey everything that I want to do in, you know, a reel or a caption or something little. You know, I want you guys to know me. Like, I remember doing like a Q&A or something, I was speaking and someone said, I didn't know you had a British accent. And of course I don't hear it, but it's cool that you guys do. And it's cool that you guys pick up on those things. And like, it's something that I'm doing for you guys. And that's something that I really love doing for you guys. Just so like, I want my dream is to be known as like your sewing best friend. Like if you're someone that is learning to sew or has been sewing for a while and you don't really have many sewing friends, like I didn't. When I graduated university, like no one knew, like apart from like a couple of people at work, like I couldn't talk about sewing with anyone. And so like what I want to be for you guys is somebody that you're just like, oh yeah, I have a sewing friend, like her name's Annie and like she sews in Melbourne and she's currently sewing this thing and she's teaching other people how to sew, and like, look, this is her. Like, you know how podcasters normally get it? they're like, oh yeah, I heard this story, like my friend said this story, and you're like, was that your podcast friend? And you're like, yeah, that kind of was my podcast friend. Like, I want to be your sewing friend. So that's why I always say hi, sewing friends, because like, you guys are my sewing friends and I want to be your sewing friend. So wholesome. So yeah, community is one of my main pillars. Education. We can talk about education because I've been known for my sewing tips and tricks. I have been doing them for years now. And the point with the sewing tips and tricks is to, first of all, make sewing less of like a huge monumental thing that you enter into and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much to learn. Can I just have it in bite-sized pieces? So I'm your little appetizer. I'm your little snacky snack. I'm your little treaty treat. So that's what my sewing tips and tricks are all about. They're all about making it easy and digestible and like, oh, I can try that out. Like, that's an easy thing. That's how to pivot. I can do that. And like, also the sewing tips and tricks are things like, you know, something that I came across while scrolling on Instagram. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been sewing for 20 years, never seen it done like that. I've got to try this. And then it works, or it doesn't sometimes. And I give it a go and then I share it. And so it's like community and education. And leading off from that, that's where my Learn to Sew Beginner's Guide to Sewing comes in. Basically putting 20 years worth of knowledge into a 5-module basis that takes you from like not knowing how to sew to sewing your first ever sewing project. And like, I will always say this is the sewing guide I wish I had when I learned to sew. Because literally I was like a candle in the wind the whole 5 years that I learned to sew. I was sewing bits and bobs and Christmas ornaments, and I wish I had something that could take me through it step by step. And also it's color coordinated, so I think you guys will like that. And the third part of Forward, my Instagram, is humor. As I'm sure you would all have noticed by now, I don't take myself too seriously. I make mistakes. I mess up occasionally. And I think that all links back to laugh at my pain, like come along with me, see what works, see what doesn't, hopping on trending sounds and trending audios and taking the very traditional way of sewing away from this. This isn't traditional, this is fun. Let's see how it goes. If it doesn't work, all good. Life needs a blooper sometimes. So those are like my 3 pillars that I eventually built up, and it got to me to the start of 2023. And I'm definitely want to talk about my viral moments that happened with Instagram, because in my 4th year of Instagram, I went from 20,000 followers to 750,000, which was incredible. Like, my community obviously loved and supported the work I was doing, and it was showcased in that. And that is something I will never take for granted. Like, I know there's lots of creatives out there that would die to have that amount of followers. And there have been so many times that I have been like, you know what, like, Instagram hates me, this isn't doing well, like, why aren't I doing better? And I'll tell you what, this is a little side note for you, Annie. If you ever feel like you're not doing enough, come back and look at this video. Okay, now we're back. And this is something that I would never have achieved if it wasn't for the amazing sewing community. Like, we help the sewists and the creatives and the content creators that we love. And for me to be a part of that is something so special, and that I'm continually growing and evolving and getting new opportunities from this is incredible. Like, it's amazing. Like, to have 750,000 people choose to follow you and see you when they open their phone is amazing. So like, I never take it for granted. One of my favorite parts of the day is is when I open up my Instagram and I see like a bunch of comments, and I'll tell you right now, it's me. It's me replying to every single one of those comments. I will never have a bot reply to any comments or DMs or anything. It's me. It's not AI, it's Annie. Like, if you guys take the time out of your day to message me or to comment on one of my posts, I will always reply. I'll try my absolute best to always reply or like or send you a thank you. And if you share my story, I always reply, thank you for sharing, or glad you enjoyed it, or like, you know, something along those lines. And it's always me. So know that, like, and some accounts, like when they pop up, I'm like, I know you, and like there's one girl who I love. She messaged me. She's like, "Hey, don't take offense to this. I'm closing my account for a while. I'm gonna unfollow because I have exams." And then like 2 months later, she followed back. And the first thing I did when I saw that she followed back was, "Hey, how was the exams? I hope you're okay. Like, can you come back into the sewing community now? How have we got you now that you have the free time to do it?" And she did really well. So I'm like so happy for her. And I sent her some sewing patterns as like a welcome home to the sewing community embrace. So just know, I do not take it for granted. I am extremely, extremely grateful. Also for like the love and support that you guys show me, because like there have been times when I was in Melbourne that I was actually really sad and I was really not okay. And I kept on thinking, I know that I can go on Instagram and I can talk to my community and they've got me. They've got me. So that is a little bit about Ford. And yeah, so the future, the future of Ford is something I am so excited about, because I'm putting this out, Netflix, can you hear me? I would love to have like a TV show, like a half an hour TV show, and it like opens up and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Annie, welcome to your wardrobe. Let's go make something." And the whole half an hour episode is me. It's a sewing tutorial of you how to make something. And it takes you from start to finish, and like throughout it, I'm like, "Hey, fun fact about pockets. Did you know that? Da, 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 da." And like little historical facts about like, you know, embroidery stitch, or like, you know, little things along those lines. So it would be like a whole TV series where at the end of the TV series, you've made yourself like 8 garments. And so like you can wear what you've made, and like lots of sewers know that when you sew, you're actually watching something anyway, or you're listening to something. So yeah, that is something that I know is in my future. It's on my vision board. Never doubt a vision board. So yeah, like the next massive step for me here on Ford is releasing this beginner's guide to sewing that I've been telling you guys about. And that is like something I've been working on for like the last 5 months, but thinking about for like probably solidly 3 years. I've had it cooking in the back, and now is the time for it. So like my absolute dream is to do this full time, because for those of you who don't know, I actually work as a waitress and a bartender 35 hours a week, and I work on Ford for like 40 hours a week. So I've essentially bootstrapped Ford wardrobe, Instagram, sewing patterns, online sale, everything I've bootstrapped. So for those of you who don't know, bootstrap is when you use your own money for your business. And because we've got to get into this more about in like my university episode. That'll be fun. I came out of uni with $56 in my bank account. I had nothing. I had $56, but I had nothing to show for it. Like, I had my degree. Basically, Ford started just as an Instagram account, and I uploaded things to it because I loved it. And 4 years later, this is where we are, and the things that are coming down the line, I'm so excited about. Like, I'm so excited. And so if you guys are wanting to subscribe, that'd be great. Because I would love to be your new sewing friend. So yeah, subscribe. I'll also put the link down below to sign up for the Beginner's Guide to Sewing if you're interested. And so yeah, I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay, love ya. Bye bye.